Welcome, everyone. I, Taishi, am and will be your teacher for the considerable future. Since you're here, I assume you know what is going on. However, for those of you who don't, this is. The first 8 lessons will cover the 8 continents of our planet: Astronaut, the Darnate Kingdom, Dynacurd, Fodwex, North, East, South, and West Torin. And additionally, I have a few extra lessons that will cover some of the more miscellaneous locations. Today's lesson shall focus on Fodwex. While on the surface one may find little special about the continent of Fodwex, it has quite the interesting past. For example, the Elder Trees, for which we have only seen 4 reawakenings of, have reawakened twice in Fodwex, both in separate groups and times. The first group were all killed and are now known as. Inside the Forest of Dornix, people have claimed to feel empowered at night, and these statements might hold some truth, as while I was there I met either an extremely tall halfling or an extremely small human. Whatever he is of no matter. What matters is what he claims to be, should his claims be true. This small man claims to be over 300 years old, far surpassing the maximum lifespan of either race. However, despite the alleged powers that this forest might give you, I do not recommend going there to try and gain them for yourself, as they only work well within the forest and only during the night. Additionally, this forest is full of monsters. That I know of, there are only 2 other factions inside this forest, if you can consider one man a faction. The Rings of Lore, who are the intelligence organization of the Flaming Fern Guild that have operations in most of the forests of the world, and the Eidolon Circle, a group of drow who revolted against Lolth, came to the surface and made this forest their home because of its odd necromantic nature, containing essences of both life and death in the trees, as the trees are living trees. However, as far as sentient beings are considered, they are dead. While this first group has died and were likely killed, the second group of elder trees, which was much smaller by comparison, are held in high regards by the inhabitants of. Seeing as we are on the topic, the Evershade Mountains are the residence of those that worship Ragni, the god of nature. The elder trees that live here are seen as high priests of Ragni, despite them being sentient creatures that may or may not worship other gods. However, they are treated as the peaks of society within these mountains, so they seem to just go along with it. All of the elder trees live in the town of Direcross Pass, making it the main settlement within these mountains. There is a select group of people chosen to become the guardians of the elder trees, who are known as the Primal Sentinels. From what I gather, these sentinels are chosen from the best of the mountain's warriors, as they do not seem to have any abilities that appear to be a boon from a god or other powerful being. Dotted around these mountains are ruins of a long forgotten group of people that have been deemed light weavers, as, from what we have been able to discover, they were so proficient in light magic that they managed to inscribe notes into the stones of their buildings that leave no mark to the naked eye during the day. However, during the night, they glow in an old and forgotten language. This next location is locked in a stalemate with the Evershade Mountains over a prophecy. This location is. The Frostfang Abyss is home to the Yetis of Fodwex. The Yetis call this location Ice Den, however most people have heard it as the Frostfang Abyss, and will continue to call it as such. Personally, I will be calling it Ice Den, however you are free to call it whichever you prefer. The King of Ice Den sits on the Echoing Throne, and when a new king gains the position, they slash a mark onto the throne to commemorate their time as king. There are hundreds of marks upon the throne. This, along with what locals say, tells us that this throne has been standing and used for hundreds of years. We are also told that the Stoneheart family, the best masons in all of Iceden, carved this throne out of a living rock, which most likely means the remains of a golem they killed. However, this is unproven. Somehow, this throne shares a sacred connection to the primeval plane of cold, which allows the king to access the powers of the plane and cast extremely powerful spells. The king also chooses up to 10 people to become the Harmonic Defenders, which are what the Royal Guards are called. Despite their name, these defenders cannot harmonize to save their lives. Next up is a reminder of one of the most tragic events in the history of this continent, and possibly even the world. The Twilight Veil was a dome that covered the whole of Fodwex in near total darkness for half a century. Along with the darkness this veil created, it also summoned horrible monsters of the night that hunted down anyone that crossed their paths. During this age of turmoil, there was only ever one celebration, the Crystal Bloom Festival, a ceremony that only ever happened once and is not likely to happen again. This is because it was only possible during the time of the Twilight Veil. It was a celebratory time because some of the flowers on the continent blossomed into magnificent crystals that emitted a light equivalent to that of a lantern. Not much light, but more than anyone had seen in the past 2 decades. The only place these flowers could feasibly bloom again is in the Twilight Hold, a building that stands in the middle of the vast plains of Fodwex and is mysteriously covered by the last remnants of the Twilight Veil. There is only one group of people that have been confirmed to live inside the Twilight Hold, this group being called the Veil Walkers, who we will discuss in a lesson somewhere down the line. Despite there only being one group confirmed to live within this fortress, there are rumors of countless other famous figures from history hiding themselves deep within the hold, the most famous of which has theories discussing whether or not they even really existed. This figure has been known as the Despite the fact that their existence has yet to be proven, we shall discuss the commonly accepted lore surrounding this figure, as I do find it extremely fascinating. There have been countless tellings of the story of the Divine Wizard, and they all have different stories for how they became as powerful as they were, or are. However, the one thing that stays the same throughout every one of their origin stories is that they don't actually have any divine powers. Instead, they were granted this title through their deep knowledge of the arcane arts that seemed almost godlike. It has been said that they are not only associated with the Twilight Hold, but also that they had a hand in summoning the heroes of the Delanescu Uprising. They have some connection to the Obsidian Library. They took part in the battle recreated by the Deadbringer Dunes, and they helped to create the Clockwork Tower, along with a strange man in a purple suit that had a possibly too familiar relationship with a phoenix. They have also been reported to be able to use any school of magic at or near the peak of its abilities. Anything else to be said about this figure is hotly debated, so this is where we will end our discussion on them. Our next topic is a mystery not even to just Fodwex, but to the entire world of Jeor'n-Dith. The Sovereign's Hidden Coast is a large, crescent-shaped island off the southern coast of Fodwex that is only slightly above sea level. The only other notable feature of this island from afar is the lone crumbled pillar that sits in the center. Carved into the pillar is an unknown script that has not been found anywhere else. It is assumed to be a puzzle, however, even the best puzzle masters haven't been able to decipher it. Some people who have attempted to step foot on the island have activated what seems to be an inlaid defense system, a gargantuan construct made from arcane energy too powerful to be affected even by the likes of a high power dispel magic spell. It is unknown what activates this construct, as the people it attacked have no links between them. This concludes our lesson on Fodwex, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending this lecture. Next week, we will be discussing the continent of North Torin. If you are unsure about any of the miscellaneous topics covered, such as the gods, Veilwalkers, or other named locations within this lecture, there is no need to worry, as they will all be covered at a later date. Can't stop, won't stop, running to the bag. You losing, I've been running, shit, no, I can't come and last. Can't stop, won't stop, running to the bag. I've been working too long, no, there ain't no time for naps. Can't stop, won't stop, running to the bag. I ain't waiting for a handout, no, these